So this is about infallibility of prophets, and this is a question from the perspective of other schools of thought which might look at infallibility differently.
Yes.
So the question is like this: Isn't it sufficient for people to follow prophets and give their lives for them if they believe that they're only infallible in transmitting the message on the premise that they have come with miracles and they have been sent from God? Didn't many companions of the Prophet apparently follow him and give their lives for him based on this premise and with this idea, especially that some of them would ask him, "Oh Rasulullah, is this from you or is this revelation?" Implying that, if it was not from revelation, then it's up for discussion and maybe error. Maybe the Prophet, maybe he needs. So how do we look at that? And there's other instances where other companions did fight with the Prophet, but clearly did not treat him as though he was infallible.
Yes. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. The issue of infallibility has many aspects. Part of it is the spiritual side. If a person has been committing sins, and in particular zulm, how could he be able to receive revelation and then to be introduced to people as a role model? When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in reply to Ibrahim alayhi salam's question, وَمِن ذُرِّيَّتِي, whether imama would be given to my progeny, Allah said, لَا يَنَالُ أَحْدَ الظَّالِمِينَ. No zalim, no unjust person would receive any of divine positions. So, first of all, this is not something that can work, that a person commits sins and then he would be able to receive revelation. We need the purest of the pure. We need the most righteous people. This is one point. The second point is, it is true that people with good intention would not make infallibility a condition to follow a leader. We have many examples of sincere, for example, believers who follow great ulama, or who have followed great ulama, great leaders, and even they were happy to give their life according to their instructions to defend themselves, defend Islam, defend humanity. But they didn't make it a condition that our leader should be infallible. Yes, that's possible. But this is for people who are very sincere and pious. But imagine you are dealing with people that look always for excuses not to follow. They are very much attached to their way of life. For generations, they have been living a certain lifestyle. They have been enjoying themselves by doing lots of haram. Like, for example, some people of Mecca in the time of Jahiliyyah. And for them now to change everything into a pious way of life, which gives them no special privilege anymore, it would not be easy. And they would look for any excuses to question the authority of the Prophet. If they had a record of Prophet making mistakes or committing sins in the past or right now, they would have given themselves all the right to say that again Prophet made another mistake. Again the Prophet has committed another sin. For 40 years they saw nothing in the Prophet except honesty and sincerity and virtuous character, and still they didn't believe in him. Now imagine if he was a fallible person who would have committed, some mistakes and sins. What would be the reaction? So, to leave no chance for any person to say that this prophet may have made mistake in saying do this or not to do this. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protects them even from forgetfulness, even from unintentional sins, so that the truth is 100% clear. Especially, remember another point. As I said, there are many points. The prophets are different from pious, wise leaders. Wise leaders are very important, and people of their own time who are sincere may follow them. But they are not the measure for understanding the truth forever. No alim, no matter how great he is or he was, would be considered as a hujjah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But we want a person to be hujjah of Allah forever. We are dealing with such caliber. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam or imams are not leaders for a certain generation or certain time. Every single word that they said and every single action that they made would remain always a source for people, for believers to reflect and draw out of it Islamic rulings. How can they be fallible? And then how can you ask people to follow the Quran and Ulul Amr? Or follow Quran and and the other thiql, which is Ahlul Bayt. So we need a protection, a comprehensive protection for such people with respect to any sin, any immoral action, even any mistake or forgetfulness. And this is why we say in the discussion about Isma that part of it is what they achieve through their efforts, and part of it is a gift that Allah gives to the people who have achieved the first level. Because for rest of people to be able to have 100% trust in these people, we need infallibility. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala not only gifts them with infallibility, gifts us with their infallibility. If a prophet forgets something, it's not going to make a big difference maybe for him if it's a personal issue. But it would harm us a lot, because then in other areas of life we will not be able to trust him. So Isma is a gift for them, but more than being a gift for them, perhaps it's a gift for us. So that with peace of mind and with full pleasure, we can follow them.
Okay, so there's a question that is related to this one, and to zoom in on that aspect of this, which is that people who were with, and so we'll go to question number 2 from the general questions, if you can scroll to that. And this touches on what this question, the aspect of this question here, that basically with all the arguments that we have made for the infallibility of the prophets and the need for it, because it's not just about the immediate companions of the prophet or the imam, this bigger picture, it's about revelation, it's about how much these people have to be infallible and a point of reference that is reliable beyond doubt so that we can all fall back on it. But in reality, historically speaking, we constantly saw that there were people around the Prophet and around the Imams who were putting them into question while still fighting for them, while still giving up, maybe even converting, maybe even sacrificing. And here's another example. The question is how others viewed Isma of Imams. Maulana, you mentioned that some of the followers of Imam Hassan said Assalamu alayka ya muzilla al-mu'minin. And as I recall, this was one of the close Shia of him. Does this mean that back then not all Shia believed that the Imams were ma'sumin? So how do we explain? A Sunni will come and say, look, but in reality, that's not what happened. People followed these people, but they didn't really think they were ma'sum. So we don't really need this asma that you're saying we need it so that things can work.
Yeah. We don't say that everyone from the beginning had this idea. Yes, for sure, they were not that advanced in theology that they knew all the things that today, after centuries of scholarship, we know. But there were people among the companions of the Prophet and Imams who had this understanding. Someone like Salman had this understanding, not only about the Prophet, even about Imam Ali alayhi salam. There were some companions of Amirul Mu'minin alayhi salam that they had such full trust in him. If you do some research on Shortatul Khamis, these are a group of people, of companions of Amirul Mu'minin alayhi salam, who had 100% trust in him, and whatever decision he was making, they were just following. So, but not every person on the street had this understanding. And even if, suppose someone knows this, it's not that everyone would act upon it. For example, today we know. We are not like those people who didn't know. But is it really the case that everyone who knows Isma of Imams would follow them and would not question them? When Imam Mahdi Ajjalallah Ta'ala Farajahu Sharif comes, everyone who knows his Isma and believes in his Imama is going to 100% accept what he says and 100% submit to his will, which would be the will of Hujjah of Allah. So to know something and to act upon it are two different things. But I accept that even theoretically things were not very clear for them. Alhamdulillah, today we stand on a very strong and solid ground which has been prepared through centuries of scholarship. Even, for example, if you go back to early scholars, even some of the scholars didn't have the same understanding that we have today. Even among themselves, sometimes there were issues, disagreements. Of course, scholars can always have, disagreements. That's not a problem. But even things that for us today are very obvious, sometimes a big scholar, I don't want to mention the example, I have clear example in my mind, the name of the scholar and the book, in early time of Ghaiba, but later his own student criticized it. So, two things. First, yes, it was not very clear for everyone that prophets and imams are ma'soom, but some knew. Secondly, even if someone knows that, it doesn't guarantee that they would act upon it and they would consider it all the time.
Okay, so we go to question 1 of Theo 201. Question 1 of Theo 201. And this is asking about, actually it's 9 a.m., so we're towards the end. Maybe we take one general question, if you're okay with that, Sheikhna.
Yes.
So basically, the general question that we have here, we will take question number 1 from general questions. This is maybe something that comes up a lot and maybe is asked from a different perspective here. So given the fast pace, question number 1 of general questions, tips for a balanced life, some practical tips, work versus spiritual growth. Given the fast pace, busy lives we lead, what practical steps does our respected teacher have for us that can help us strike a sense of balance where we ensure that we are consistently planting seeds for akhirah and always cognizant of our final abode and the temporal nature of this dunya?
This is a this is too good to have it in.
We'll leave it for next time.
Perhaps, because it's very important. But I think we addressed this also in Montreal when we had that interface program. I think one of the questions was about balance, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, the series of seminars were about this. This question seems like it's never enough to talk about it because it really.
And actually, many KLC people were not present. You know, the session with the Mormon person. There were 3 questions asked at the beginning. I think one of them was about balance, if I'm not mistaken. Perhaps that part.
We'll ask for the recordings then.
Yes, it's online also. Yes, maybe that piece can be. Brother Mustafa should have the questions. I think part of it was about balance, but I'm very happy to talk about this balance, inshallah, another time. It's very important. Just today also, I was talking about divine justice and its manifestation in social justice in a conference here in Mashhad, and inshallah I will put it online. And one of the things I talked about is balance, how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created the whole world in balance, and it's very important. Of course, we need to talk about balance also for us, but in the paper today I talked about balance in the whole creation. So we need always to think about balance. Amir al-Mu'minin salam says, you don't see Jahil, either it is, unless he's either mufrat or mufarrat. He's going to one side of the extreme, either doing too much or too little. To be balanced is not something easy. This needs knowledge, this needs wisdom, this needs self-control, self-assessment, self-disciplining. This needs help of other mu'mineen. It's a very, very important thing. Inshallah, maybe we can talk about it sometime.
Ahsan, Sheikhna. At the moment we are technically at the end, and whichever way you'd like to manage it, I know you like to say hello to the students, and so how much leeway do we have roughly? A few minutes perhaps, or you have something? A few minutes, all right. Bismillah. So Sister Elia Ahmed from Texas, thank you very much for